The room went silent the moment Charles walked away. Only seconds earlier, the Windsor dinner had seemed completely normal. Charles sat beside Camilla, while William, Catherine, and continued their quiet conversation. Then a small cream-colored card was placed beside Charles's plate. It looked harmless, but Camilla noticed it. She had already been asking questions about changes inside the royal household, and the card seemed to confirm something she had begun to fear. Certain duties were being shifted. Some briefings would now go directly to William. Catherine would join preparations that had once involved other members of the household, and was becoming more involved. Camilla finally asked the question, "Is that final?" Charles looked at the card. "We can discuss it later." But Camilla refused to let it go. Did William ask for it? Charles said no. Did Catherine? Again, no. Then Camilla looked at him. "So this is your decision?" Charles removed his glasses and placed them beside the card. "The household is adjusting." Camilla shook her head. "No, not the household. The future." That sentence changed the entire mood at the table. William went quiet. Catherine lowered her eyes and watched Charles carefully. She could tell this argument was not new. Camilla continued, saying that briefings were moving away from her, that decisions were being discussed before she heard about them, and was now being included in areas Camilla once handled. And finally responded, "Things you used to see first are not necessarily things you were meant to decide." Camilla turned toward her. "I didn't say decide," and simply returned to her plate. Then Camilla asked the question that nobody expected. "What happens in October?" Charles suddenly became still. The card only listed changes through September, and picked it up and checked it again. There was nothing about October. No autumn briefing. No joint preparations. Nothing. So how did Camilla know? Before anyone could answer, Camilla became more emotional. "How much of it goes around me?" and placed the card on the table. Charles looked directly at Camilla. "Sit down." But Camilla was already standing. "You are preparing them to run everything before you are gone." For a brief moment, Charles's expression changed. Camilla continued, "You're making decisions with William, Catherine, and then leaving me to discover my own future between courses." Then she said something even more painful. "You are preparing them for a life in which I no longer matter." Charles pushed his chair back. He stood, and without another word, he walked out. No shouting, no slammed door, just silence. And immediately stood. "Nobody leaves." The staff froze. Camilla stared toward the door. William looked at Anne, and then asked the question that suddenly mattered more than the argument. "Who told you about October?" Camilla hesitated. The card contained nothing beyond September. Yet Camilla clearly knew about October. She tried to explain that she simply heard things. William remained calm. "That wasn't my question." The pressure in the room changed. Someone had apparently told Camilla about plans that were not yet officially circulating, and ordered the staff to stop any October briefing from being distributed until the circulation could be checked. A folder arrived at the door. It was stopped immediately. Nobody explained why, but everyone understood. Something had been leaked. Then Catherine offered to step back from one of the new responsibilities. "If giving one of them back makes tonight smaller, I'm willing to do that." William immediately disagreed. "No." Catherine looked at him. "I can speak for myself." "I know." She explained that she had never asked for the meeting or the briefing. She had not demanded these new responsibilities. That mattered, because Camilla had been treating Catherine as though she were part of a plan to push her aside. But Catherine had not created the changes. Charles had. And William had not simply taken them. The evidence was sitting inside the red box. When the box finally arrived and opened it, inside were several official papers. She read the first page, then the second, then she stopped at the third. She passed it to William. His expression changed. The document contained the truth about October. If Charles was unable to attend certain briefings or ceremonial preparations, William and Catherine were to receive those briefings together. Not William alone. Not Camilla being removed. William and Catherine together. The document was about continuity, not replacement. Camilla read the page. Her eyes stopped at one sentence. If His Majesty were unable to attend, she looked at William. You knew about this? Some of it. How much? William explained that certain plans were being prepared in case Charles could not personally attend important events. Camilla asked if this meant Charles was preparing to step aside. William answered carefully. No. It means someone has to know what is happening before the day they are suddenly asked to carry it. The truth was becoming clearer. Charles was not secretly removing Camilla. He was preparing for moments when he might not be available. The document had been signed only 6 days earlier. And suddenly, Charles's decision to walk away made more sense. And went to find him. She discovered him alone in a smaller drawing room. His jacket was off. His tie was loose. His glasses were still missing from the table. And asked him directly, "Did you mean it?" Charles looked at her. Every word. He explained that every time he made an official decision, someone became hurt. Then the decision would be softened. Then adjusted. Then changed again. This time, he wanted one decision to remain a decision. And asked if he had expected Camilla to react that way. Charles looked away. No. And for the first time that evening, he sounded less like a king and more like a husband. And understood what he needed. He did not want another argument. He wanted the official decision respected. When Anne returned to the dining room, Charles was still absent. She opened the red box again. Then she placed one signed page directly in front of Camilla. It was Charles's decision. From now on, formal changes to official responsibilities would not be negotiated during private family dinners. Any objections would go through the proper private secretary. Camilla looked at the document. So, I need permission to speak to my own husband? And answered calmly. No. You need a proper process to change an official decision. Camilla looked at Charles's signature. So, I can still tell him I think he's wrong? Of course. But if he changes his mind, it gets recorded. That was the boundary. Camilla could still be Charles's wife. She could still disagree with him. But being his wife could no longer quietly change official decisions without a record. Then Camilla finally admitted something. I should not have shouted. And said nothing. I shouldn't have done it in front of the staff. Still nothing. Camilla looked toward William. And I shouldn't have suggested you created all of this. William gave a small nod. Then she turned to Catherine. You offered to step back. Yes. I believed you wanted the responsibility. Catherine answered quietly. I understand. Camilla finally accepted what had been sitting in front of her all evening. Catherine had not asked for the work. William had not stolen it. Charles had assigned it. And the argument had been built partly on a misunderstanding. But there was still one question left. Why had Charles walked away? The dinner ended slowly. Charles would not return. His chair remained exactly where he had pushed it. His glasses were eventually taken away. The October circulation was frozen. And the source of the leaked information would be investigated. But after everyone else left, Anne remained with Camilla. Camilla looked at the empty chair. Then she asked, Why did he leave? And looked at her. You said he was preparing William and Catherine for a life in which you no longer matter. Camilla nodded. Do you remember what he actually said? Camilla couldn't answer. And finally told her. He said, I am preparing them for a life in which I may not be here. Camilla froze. She had not heard that part. She had heard the anger. She had heard the fear. But she had missed the real meaning. Charles was not necessarily planning to disappear from public life. He was preparing his family for the possibility that one day, he simply might not be able to stand in the room and lead it. Camilla looked toward his empty chair. I didn't hear him. And answered quietly. You heard him. You just weren't listening to that part. For the first time that evening, Camilla had no argument. She simply stood. Where is he? And waited before answering. Camilla wanted to go to him. Finally, and nodded. As Camilla reached the door, and gave her one final warning. Go as his wife. Leave the queen here. Camilla stopped for a moment. Then she opened the door and walked away. Anne remained alone in the dining room. The cream-colored scheduling card was still sitting near Charles's empty place. She picked it up, folded it once, and placed it inside the red box. Then she closed the lid. The argument had been about power, about responsibility, about who was being prepared for the future. But in the end, the most important chair in the room was the one Charles had left empty. And the real question was no longer who would replace whom. It was whether the royal family was quietly preparing for a future they were not yet ready to face.